First Contact Surprise. The Sentinel-class observation vessel Eternal Vigil hung in the darkness of space, its adaptive camouflage rendering it invisible against the backdrop of stars. Inside, Chief Observer Xerox of the Galactic Concordat pressed her crystalline appendages against the ship's neural interface, her consciousness expanding through the vessel's vast sensor network. After 3 centuries of studying primitive species, she had never encountered readings like these. "Impossible," she whispered, her bioluminescent patterns flickering with distress. "Run the analysis again." The ship's AI compiled the data for the 7th time. The results remained unchanged. The humans of Earth had survived what should have been an extinction-level event. Again. The gamma-ray burst from WR 104 should have sterilized their entire solar system. The Concordat had detected it years ago, calculated its trajectory, and marked Earth as a tragic but inevitable loss. They had even prepared to collect samples of human civilization for their archaeological archives. Instead, humanity had not only survived but thrived. They had detected the incoming burst, developed a planetary shield network in mere months, and turned the deadly radiation into a power source. It defied all known models of technological development. Senior Observer, her second-in-command, Angstol, approached with new data streams swirling around his elongated form. "You need to see this. The humans are already improving upon their shield design. They're calling it version 2.0 and implementing changes based on the radiation patterns they observed during the burst." Xyrex felt her crystalline structure vibrate with unease. The humans weren't merely surviving catastrophes, they were learning from them, adapting, growing stronger. It violated every principle of species development the Concordat had documented over 10,000 years of observation. "Show me their neural patterns during the crisis," she commanded. The holographic display filled with waves of human brain activity, and Xyrex felt her unease deepen. Where other species showed fear, panic, and resignation when faced with extinction-level threats, the human patterns showed something entirely different. Excitement, engagement, and a strange form of pleasure they called challenge acceptance. "They're enjoying it," Angstol observed, his own patterns showing confusion. "The harder the problem, the more resources they commit to solving it. It's as if they're playing some sort of game with the universe itself." Xyrex accessed the historical archives, reviewing humanity's response to previous catastrophes. The pattern was undeniable. The Black Death had led to revolutionary advances in medicine. World wars had accelerated technological development by decades. Every disaster that should have broken them instead made them stronger. "Pull up the Kardashev scale predictions," she ordered. The AI displayed the standard model for civilizational development. According to every known metric, humanity should have taken another 1,000 years to achieve their current level of technology. Instead, they were advancing at a pace that seemed to accelerate with each new challenge. Senior Observer, Angstol's patterns shifted to emergency frequencies. "We're detecting new energy signatures from their lunar bases. They're attempting to harness quantum vacuum fluctuations. The calculations suggest they're trying to create stable micro-universes for power generation." "But that's," Xyrex began. "Impossible." "Yes, they're attempting it anyway. And based on their previous success patterns, they'll likely achieve it within a standard solar cycle." Xyrex made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. She opened a priority channel to the Concordat High Council, her message marked with the highest level of urgency. "Honored Council, I must report a Level 1 anomaly. We have encountered a species that does not follow any known laws of development. The humans of Sol 3 appear to possess a unique evolutionary trait. They become stronger when faced with impossible challenges. More concerning, they seem to actively seek out such challenges for what they term fun." She paused, her patterns shifting to convey the gravity of her next words. "I recommend immediate reclassification of humanity. They are not, as previously thought, a primitive species struggling toward enlightenment. They are instead something we have never encountered before, a species that treats the impossible as merely the first step toward innovation, and they are advancing at an exponential rate. As she transmitted the message, Xyrax watched the humans begin another impossible project on their lunar base. According to their own calculations, it had a 0.01% chance of success. She noticed they had labeled this project Phase 1, meaning they were already planning for success and subsequent improvements. For the first time in her 3 centuries of observation, Xyrax felt something new. Fear, not of human aggression or technology, but of their relentless, joyful defiance of the very concepts of limitation and impossibility. The universe, she realized, was not ready for a species that treated the laws of physics as mere suggestions and impossibility as a personal challenge. The breaking point. Admiral Helena Chen stood on the bridge of the EDS Perseverance, watching Earth's first interstellar fleet materialize in the Proxima Centauri system. The holographic displays showed what conventional wisdom said was impossible. 50 ships powered by human-made quantum drives, each carrying technology that 3 years ago had been deemed theoretically unworkable. Multiple contacts. Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice cut through the quiet hum of the bridge. Massive energy signatures at the system's edge. Configuration matches the Harvester fleet descriptions from the Centauri colonies. Helena's expression remained calm as the alien vessels appeared, enormous biomechanical constructs that seemed to absorb nearby light. The Harvesters had already consumed 3 civilizations in nearby systems, their organic technology adapting to and overwhelming each species' defenses. They had expected Earth to be another easy target. Their broadcasting, Admiral. Communications Officer Park announced. Text only, universal mathematical format. The message appeared on the main screen. Res as STNC is resource waste. Your biological and technological distinctiveness will be absorbed. Surrender for efficient processing. Helena allowed herself a small smile. Send them the response we prepared. Park's fingers danced across his console. The reply was simple. ERR 404. Surrender notified. Battle Group Commanders, implement Protocol Impossible. Helena ordered. Remember your training. The harder they hit, the stronger we become. Show them what humanity does best. The Harvester ships launched their first attack. Swarms of self-replicating nanobots designed to consume and convert enemy vessels. It was a strategy that had worked countless times before, but humanity had spent the last year preparing specifically for this moment. Activate the entropy fields. Helena commanded. The human fleet shimmered as quantum probability manipulators came online. Technology developed by Dr. Yuki Tanaka after 300 failed attempts and one impossible breakthrough. The nanobots hit the fields and simply ceased to exist, their carefully programmed patterns dissolving into quantum chaos. The Harvester ships paused, their organic hulls pulsing with what might have been confusion. This had never happened before. Their next attack came in the form of gravitational weapons, attempting to crush the human vessels into singularities. Phase 2, Helena ordered calmly. Show them what we learned from playing with black holes. The Perseverance and her sister ships activated their quantum inversion drives. Instead of fighting the gravitational forces, they absorbed them, channeling the energy through Dr. Tanaka's impossible engines. The more the Harvesters tried to crush them, the more power the human fleet generated. Their attack pattern is adapting, Rodriguez reported. They're attempting to analyze our technology. Good, Helena replied. Let's give them something really interesting to study. Deploy the entropy bombs. The weapons that launched from the human ships were perhaps humanity's greatest achievement in impossible science. Each one contained a pocket of artificially generated chaos, a space where the laws of physics went on holiday, as Dr. Tanaka liked to joke. When they impacted the Harvester ships, the results were spectacular. The biomechanical vessels began to deteriorate, their adaptive technology unable to cope with weapons that defied the very laws of nature they relied upon. Their attempts to absorb and adapt to the human technology only accelerated their destruction. "Admiral," Park called out. "They're broadcasting again." The message appeared. "Impossible. Your species operates outside known parameters. Retreat rotocios engaged." "Not so fast," Helena said. "Launch the quantum entanglement nets." The nets, another impossible invention, born from repeated failures and stubborn human determination, spread through space, trapping the harvester ships in fields of interconnected quantum states. The more they struggled, the more entangled they became. "Message from Fleet Command," Park announced. "The colonies are reporting similar victories in all sectors. The harvester forces are in full retreat wherever they encounter our ships." Helena nodded, watching as the mighty harvester fleet, terror of 3 civilizations, fled from humanity's impossible technology. But she knew this was just the beginning. The real victory wasn't in the battle itself, but in what humanity had achieved in preparing for it. "Send a message to Earth," she ordered. "Operation Impossible successful. Beginning Phase 2. We're going hunting. It's time to show the galaxy that humanity doesn't just solve impossible problems. We turn them into opportunities." As the fleet regrouped, preparing to pursue the retreating harvesters, Helena reflected on the long path that had led to this moment. Every failed experiment, every crashed prototype, every impossible challenge had been a step toward this victory. Humanity hadn't just survived the threat. They had transformed it into their greatest advancement yet. The harvesters had expected to find easy prey. Instead, they had encountered a species that treated their unstoppable force as an interesting puzzle to be solved. They had learned what the alien observers had realized years ago. Humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology or their determination, but their fundamental inability to accept the concept of impossible. "Plot a course for the harvester home system," Helena commanded. "Let's show them what other impossible things we can do." The fleet jumped to quantum speed, leaving behind the conventional laws of physics, just as humanity had left behind the conventional limitations of what a species should be capable of achieving. The impossible, as ever, was just the beginning. Evolutionary paradox. The grand archive of galactic knowledge sparkled like a constellation brought indoors, its crystal walls reflecting the light of a billion stored memories. Dr. Venra, chief xenobiologist of the Galactic Council, floated in the central chamber, her energy form pulsing with growing agitation as she reviewed the latest data on humanity. "Impossible," she whispered, then laughed at her own choice of words. That term had lost all meaning since humans had entered galactic society. The holographic display before her showed the results of a 50-year study into human neural patterns. The data contradicted everything known about sapient evolution. Where other species' brains showed increased stress and decreased function, when faced with seemingly impossible challenges, human brains lit up with activity. They actually performed better when told something couldn't be done. "Are you still trying to make sense of them?" The amused voice belonged to Ambassador David Chen, who had somehow entered the supposedly secure chamber without triggering any alerts. Another impossible human feat that they seemed to manage routinely. "Ambassador," Venra acknowledged, her energy form shifting to formal patterns. "I didn't hear you come in." "That's because I used your new, foolproof security system," Chen smiled. "We found 3 exploits in it this morning. Don't worry. We've already sent your engineers the improvements we developed while breaking it." Venra's form flickered with what might have been exasperation. "You do realize that's not how security is supposed to work. Most species try to protect their advantages. Where's the fun in that?" Chen settled into a hovering chair. "Besides, we found that sharing solutions tends to lead to even better problems to solve." The xenobiologist's next words emerged before she could stop them. "Your species makes no sense. You treat galaxy-shaking discoveries as morning exercises. You solved the Craxon equation, which we'd studied for 10,000 years, Because someone told your researchers it was impossible. To be fair, Chen grinned, we also solved it because Dr. Rodriguez bet Dr. Patel a cup of coffee that she couldn't crack it before lunch. Venra's form practically sparked with frustrated curiosity. That's exactly what I mean. You turn universal constants into casual challenges. Do you know what your quantum engineers did last week? They created a pocket universe in their break room to store their leftovers because the refrigerator was full. The quantum fold refrigerator. Chen nodded. Yeah, that's gone commercial now. Very popular with families who have teenagers. You never run out of space for snacks. The xenobiologist's next words came out almost as a plea. But how? How did your species develop this? This ability to treat the impossible as merely inconvenient. Even your children do it. We observed a human school where the students rebuilt their entire science lab into a temporal observatory because they were curious about dinosaurs. Chen's expression softened. Has it occurred to you that maybe the rest of the galaxy has it backwards? You see an impossible problem and calculate all the reasons it can't be solved. We see an impossible problem and think, well, nobody's solved it yet, so we might as well give it a try. But that's not logical. Venra protested. Your own scientists calculate the probability of failure, and then proceed even when it's over 99%. Ah, but that's where you're missing something fundamental about humans. Chen leaned forward. We don't see a 99% chance of failure. We see a 1% chance of success, and think, those odds are way better than zero. Let's see if we can improve them. The ambassador stood, walking to one of the crystal walls. Look at this archive. It's beautiful, magnificent even. It represents 10,000 years of careful, methodical advancement. But you know what I see. I see 10,000 years of people saying impossible and stopping. What might have been discovered if they'd just tried anyway. Venra's form shifted to a deep shade of contemplation. You're suggesting that our very understanding of possibility and impossibility is just another limit to be tested, Chen finished. The universe doesn't care what we think is impossible. It only cares what we actually try to do. An alert chimed through the chamber. Chen checked his communicator and smiled. Speaking of trying the impossible, you might want to update your archives. That team studying solar dynamics just figured out how to stabilize a star's core. They say we should be able to prevent supernovas now. As the ambassador headed for the door, he turned back with a twinkle in his eye. Oh, and Dr. Venra, that secure chamber problem. The solution isn't in your security systems. You might want to check your assumptions about what walls can and cannot do. Left alone in the chamber, Dr. Venra stared at her data on human neural patterns. Then, for the first time in her long career, she did something that would have once seemed impossible. She deleted her conclusions and started fresh, asking not why humans could do the impossible, but why everyone else assumed they couldn't. The impossible, she was beginning to understand, was just another word for not trying hard enough. Perhaps it was time for the rest of the galaxy to learn this very human lesson. The impossible fleet. The shipyards of Proxima Centauri sprawled across space like a metallic constellation, each dock berthing vessels that defied conventional physics. Dr. Maya Patel stood at the observation deck of Research Station Alpha, watching her latest creation take shape. The quantum-folded hull of the EDS Imagination gleamed with possibilities, its very existence a testament to humanity's refusal to accept limitations. Dr. Patel. A melodious voice interrupted her contemplation. The Galactic Council's scientific committee has arrived. She turned to find her assistant, Tom Chen, standing with a delegation of alien scientists. Their varied forms, from crystalline structures to pure energy beings, reflected the diversity of galactic civilization. All of them radiated a mixture of curiosity and disbelief. Welcome to Project Infinity, Maya smiled, where we make the impossible happen on a daily schedule. The head of the delegation, a Thesian quantum physicist named Zor-El, whose form shimmered like liquid starlight, spoke first. Dr. Patel, we've reviewed your designs. They violate 17 fundamental laws of physics. Only 17. Maya checked her tablet with mock concern. We must be slipping. Last month's design violated 23. She gestured to the massive ship under construction. Would you like to see how we do it? The tour through the shipyard became a lesson in human innovation. At each station, alien scientists watched in growing amazement as human engineers casually rewrote the rules of reality. Here's where we fold space-time, Maya explained, pointing to a section where workers manipulated what looked like the fabric of reality itself. We found that if you approach it with the right attitude, space-time is actually quite flexible. It just needs a gentle touch and some encouragement. But the energy requirements, one crystalline scientist began, were impossible. Yes, Maya completed the thought. So we invented a new kind of energy. We call it probability fusion. It runs on unlikely events. She led them to a chamber where engineers monitored a swirling vortex of pure possibility. The more improbable something is, the more energy it generates when it happens anyway. We're currently powering this entire facility on the statistical impossibility of its own existence. The alien scientists' instruments were going haywire, their fundamental understanding of physics crumbling with each new revelation. Yet the humans around them continued working, as if bending reality was just another day at the office. This is where we developed the quantum navigation systems, Maya continued, showing them a room where mathematicians worked on equations that seemed to write themselves in midair. We found that if you treat parallel universes less like separate realities and more like different lanes on a highway, interstellar travel becomes much more manageable. But that's... Zor-El started. Impossible. You might want to stop using that word here, Tom suggested kindly. It tends to motivate the research teams a bit too much. Last time someone said we couldn't do something, we accidentally invented time. Maya led them to the heart of the facility, the imagination's engine room. The power core pulsed with energies that shouldn't exist, turning theoretical physics into practical engineering through sheer human determination. The real breakthrough, she explained, wasn't in the technology. It was in our approach. We stopped trying to follow the rules of physics and started asking why those rules existed in the first place. Turns out, the universe is a lot more flexible than anyone thought. One of the energy beings in the delegation flickered with sudden understanding. You're not just building ships, it realized. You're rewriting the fundamental nature of reality. Reality, Maya smiled, is just another theory waiting to be improved. The universe doesn't care what we think is impossible. It only cares what we actually try to do. She gestured to the massive view screen showing hundreds of ships under construction. Each one incorporated technologies that the rest of the galaxy had deemed impossible mere years ago. But that wasn't the most remarkable thing about the shipyards. Look at the crews, Maya suggested. Among the human workers, alien forms moved with growing confidence. Students and scientists from across the galaxy who had begun to learn the human way of thinking. That's our real project here. We're not just building ships. We're building a new way of looking at the universe. Zor-El's form pulsed with what might have been excitement. You're teaching others to think like humans. We're teaching them to stop thinking about what's impossible, Maya corrected. The ships are just a bonus. The real breakthrough is watching people from across the galaxy realize that the only true limits are the ones we choose to believe in. As if to emphasize her point, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Tom checked his tablet and grinned. Lab 7 just accidentally discovered a way to communicate with parallel universes. They were trying to improve the coffee maker. Maya turned to the stunned delegation with a warm smile. Would you like to stay and see what other impossible things we discover today? I hear Lab 12 is working on something they call probability surfing. They say it might let us ride quantum waves through dimensions. The alien scientists looked at each other, then back at the humans who treated universal constants as mere suggestions. One by one, they nodded. Perhaps it was time to learn that impossible was just another word for not yet. Symphony of chaos. The end of everything arrived on a Tuesday. At least, that's what the conventional models predicted. The universe's expansion had begun accelerating beyond control, threatening to tear reality itself apart. The greatest minds of 1,000 civilizations had concluded that the heat death of the universe was now inevitable and imminent. Humanity's response: they scheduled a meeting. The grand chamber of the Emergency Galactic Council hummed with tension as representatives from across space and time gathered to face their doom. At the center of the chamber, Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the assembled species, her holographic display showing what appeared to be random scribbles to most observers. "Distinguished colleagues," she began, a hint of excitement in her voice that made several energy beings pulse with disbelief. "Thank you for coming to our presentation on Project Universe 2.0. A Fescian elder's crystalline form vibrated with distress. "Dr. Chen, the universe is literally coming apart at the seams. This is not the time for one of humanity's experiments." Sarah's smile widened. "Actually, that's exactly what this is about. We've been studying the universe's expansion problem, and we've come up with a solution. We're going to reboot reality." The chamber erupted in a cacophony of protests, questions, and expressions of disbelief in 100 different forms of communication. Sarah waited patiently, her smile never wavering. "Impossible." The word echoed from multiple species simultaneously. "Now you've done it," muttered Admiral Helena Chen from her seat, watching her sister's grin grow even wider. Sarah's fingers danced across her holographic controls, and the chamber filled with a complex web of quantum equations and probability matrices. "The universe isn't just expanding, it's innovating. We've been looking at this all wrong. This isn't the end of everything. It's the universe trying to upgrade itself." She gestured to a section of the display where quantum fluctuations formed patterns that looked almost like code. "We found these patterns in the fabric of space-time. They're not random. They're iterative. The universe is running a program, and we've figured out how to contribute to it." The alien scientists stared at the data, their various sensory organs trying to process what they were seeing. A harvester representative, their biomechanical form humming with computational activity, spoke first. "These patterns, they resemble our evolutionary algorithms." "Exactly." Sarah's excitement was contagious. "The universe isn't dying. It's evolving. And we've figured out how to help it along. We're going to use quantum entanglement on a universal scale to guide this process. Instead of fighting the expansion, we're going to work with it to create Universe 2.0. "But the energy requirements," began a Concordat physicist, "are impossible." Sarah finished. "We've got that covered. Remember those probability fusion reactors we developed? Turns out, the more impossible something is, the more energy we can generate from making it happen anyway. And what could be more impossible than rebooting the universe?" She brought up another display, showing a network of human ships positioned at strategic points throughout space. Each vessel was equipped with technology that the rest of the galaxy had deemed impossible just years ago. Together, they formed what humanity had dubbed the Universal Development Framework. "The expansion is trying to create something new," Sarah explained. "We're just going to help it along, guide it toward a more stable configuration. Think of it as universal tech support." A wave of uncertainty swept through the chamber. An ancient energy being, their form barely contained by reality, spoke with the weight of eons. "You propose to interface with the fundamental code of existence itself. The risks are enormous," Sarah nodded. "The chances of success are technically zero, but you know what that means to humans. It just makes it more interesting." She gestured to the assembled human fleet on the display. "Every ship is powered by the statistical impossibility of its own existence. Every crew member is trained in quantum probability manipulation. We're going to use the very forces trying to tear reality apart to instead weave it into something new and better." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity wasn't just proposing to save the universe. They were suggesting they could upgrade it. "It's already starting." Sarah said softly, pointing to where the fabric of reality itself seemed to ripple with new possibilities. The question is, are you with us? One by one, the representatives of galactic civilization looked at each other. They saw in each other's eyes, crystals, energy patterns, and various sensory organs the same realization. Humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy hadn't been their impossible technologies or their reality-defying solutions. It had been teaching them all how to believe in the impossible. The Harvester representatives stood first, their biomechanical form reconfiguring into something new. We will adapt. We will evolve. We will assist. Others followed, each species offering their own unique capabilities to the effort. The universe might be trying to upgrade itself, but it would have help from humans who treated universal constants as suggestions, and from the civilizations they had taught to dream of impossible things. As the combined fleet of every spacefaring race moved into position around the galaxy, Sarah Chen looked out at the rippling fabric of space-time and smiled. The end of everything had arrived on a Tuesday. But thanks to humanity's unique ability to treat the impossible as merely the first step toward something new, it would also be the beginning of everything else.